Thank you. Well, yeah, I'm from the University of Oxford Computing Services, and our team has been working on First World War projects online since the internet began in the 1990s. Most recently in 2011, we've been working with Europeana and the German National Library, and we're using public participation and user-generated content to build a First World War research collection, which is free of charge to use. For example, this is a 1915 type Pickelhaube from a Prussian infantry regiment. In this case, it has a leather body with dull steel fixtures and fittings. And these photos, and there are many of them, were submitted by a member of the public on our website. We've not improved the photographs, we've just compressed the file size for the internet. The photos are very high quality. The member of the public has added information about the reasons why the spike is removable, as you can see at the bottom. For example, imagine blundering around the trench in close proximity to your comrades. The only thing our project team of subject experts can add is that underneath the detached spike, right at the top, there's an area of serrated metal. Now here the soldier can strike a match, and interestingly, this was not for his pipe, this was not for his fire. This is because some grenades, some emergency grenades, their fuses needed a flame to light in the early days of the war. Now this is a screenshot of the website where the photos of that helmet were contributed, and where you can search and browse, and you can contribute on the website yourself. You can see the Europeana logo, and the site is currently available in German and in English. Europeana provided the funding and the server space, and periodically they'll ingest all the metadata and the thumbnail images. Europeana were first inspired to fund this when they saw our work in Oxford, when we ran a short-term pilot collection like this in the UK. In 2008, we ran what we called the Great War Archive. This was a community collection. We had enough funding to run this for 4 months only as a test pilot. We managed to get the public to contribute stories and images of anything they had from the First World War. This was an early form of what's now called crowdsourcing. For Germany, we followed the methods of the Great War Archive. We set up a very simple online contribution form. You can see one shot of it here. And this form, the site, and the whole process was available in English or German. The member of the public enters some basic metadata, and as has been mentioned before, the trick here is to get some useful information from the contributor, but at the same time not making the task really laborious that might put them off. There's a large open notes field for information and anecdotes, and the contributor also agrees to the terms and conditions, and these are equivalent to the CC0 we've been hearing so much about this week. Finally, the contributor uploads their files, usually photos. The form and the whole database is based on an open source Ruby on Rails system, which we've developed. And the website has a very simple HTML shell, and it's all displayed with a CSS from Europeana. Not everyone is familiar with the internet, so we ran roadshows. These roadshows were public participation days. They were coordinated by the National Library in Germany, and we worked with an organization like a state library or an archive. We based ourselves there for a day, and we used the newspapers and the radio to invite the public to join us. I don't know if you've seen the BBC TV programme The Antiques Roadshow, but these public days were just like that. People really did queue up with their plastic bags full of photographs, letters, uniforms, bayonets, and we'd talk to them about what they'd brought in. We'd get them to fill in a form, and then we'd take the items away, photograph them, and return them. And in this way, we've collected the ephemera which the museums and the rest of the world has chosen to leave undocumented. Yep, we had lots of medals and similar kinds of portrait photographs, but we also got hundreds of unpublished diaries and memoirs and photographs. To moderate the contributions, we have an administration system which allows our editors to check the items for their validity, to correct or add more metadata, and also to flag items which are particularly of interest for us or of value for research. We also have a takedown policy and an email address where users can contact us. Johan asked me to provide examples of how we do check this quality, and we're in the early days of this in Germany, but this is an example from the UK from 2008. So this was submitted to us in 2008, and last week, that's 3 years on, I got an email. And the email says that this bus ticket is not from the First World War. It must be from World War II. The bus ticket isn't actually stamped, and there's no date information provided by the contributor. So here's the email. And wow, this guy thinks he knows his stuff about London bus companies. I certainly don't. So my immediate response is to say thank you very much and explain that we'll investigate about this. So I looked into who actually contributed the ticket in the first place, and it's the Bodleian Library. This is one of the oldest university libraries in the world. So this is quite an interesting problem, an interesting example where a knowledgeable amateur, an enthusiast, is correcting a professional and learned institution. Okay, so as I was saying, Europeana funded the German National Library to run this collection. Our team at Oxford helped with training, and the National Library recruited volunteers from around the country. The local partners ran public participation days, and there were 8 all around the country. And these days were the main focus for the National Library. If I've got time at the end of this talk, I'm going to try and show you some of this video. It's actually available on YouTube, and all the links are there in the presentation slides. But I wanted to show you a comparison of our experience in the UK and in Germany. And I've chosen 2 days, and they were not the busiest, but they weren't the smallest either. And on the left-hand side, you can see figures relating to a day in Norwich in 2008, and on the right-hand side, a day in Germany, in Munich, in 2011. And near the top, you can see that roughly the same amount of contributors came in. We've provided a lot more staff at the German days. We knew a lot more about what we were doing. But what overwhelmed us was the huge amount of material which was brought in. So if you compare the figures at the bottom. So why did this work so well in Germany? Well, I think there are a number of reasons, and I'm going to tell you about just one. You've probably seen the film that was being displayed in the foyer yesterday morning, and it's also been used in a couple of other presentations during this conference. This was prepared by Europeana, and if you'd given this promotional video to the Oxford team, we've got a lot of experience in creating podcasts for iTunes and videos for YouTube. Well, you've got something very similar to this. This is my notebook that I carry around all the time. It's got your poppies on it. A film created by us would have had all the stereotypes of the trenches, the mud, the poppies. But this film has a really modern feel, aimed at the YouTube audience. Not only can you get this through YouTube, you can get it on our website and on the Europeana website as well. But the key thing here was that Europeana provided sufficient funding to employ a public relations agency to manage all of the press And this is a company called Facts and Files, who are based in Berlin. Scenes from that YouTube film were released to the press in broadcast quality. And in the project launch, we actually got footage onto the National German News, and here you can see Europeana and Europeana's name, the logo there in the National German television news. And for the Oxford team, the whole purpose of the action days, these public participation days, is to give the press something, a really human show, which they can report on. The librarians told us that they normally find it very difficult to get the press to print anything about their news or their events. But these action days really fired the reporter's imagination, as well as television and radio. The local and national newspapers published full-colour spreads. And this is a scene on the street in Munich, and this is an advertising poster for the newspaper, and their poster features the event at the library. And yes, the action days were besieged by reporters. They got in our way. They got in the way of us trying to do the scanning. They moved material just as we were about to photograph it. But we put up with this because their news stories should attract contributors to the website. So what next? We've collected over 17,000 files from Germany, and the collection website is still open for contributions from anywhere in the world. The large event for us is the centenary. It will soon be 100 years since the war began in 1914. So we're very pleased that we'll be working with Europeana again in 2012. Initially, we'll be collecting in Belgium. In 2013, hopefully in Italy as well. But if we collect in Italy, we must collect in Austria. And at the moment, we're still negotiating about this. And what about other countries? What about the experience of technically a neutral, like the Netherlands? And if we've collected in Germany, we must organise a collection in France. Now here's the website again. This is a screenshot of the German version. The website's open for anyone to contribute anything they want to about the First World War. And these files will later this year go into Europeana. But currently the website is the only place that you can explore the collection. The site was never designed for delivery, but there is a very basic search function, and we've put in some browse functionality as well. Next year we will do more with the site. We have a few volunteers who check our contributions, but we need to recruit and train a motivated community for the future. Next year we'll refresh the site and make it a focus for collection. And in the meantime, please look at our editor's blog, which is the middle frame. And we're also considering things related to continuous audience engagement. First of all, who is our audience? Now, we started to analyse this from the information that people have told us about themselves when they register to contribute on the website. Now, over 500 have registered. 3/4 are from Germany, as you'd expect, but this is the internet, and we have contributors from 27 different countries, including South America. The majority are male and over 45, so we've got to consider, how do we engage with the under 25s? How do we make the subject more interesting to a female audience? And I mentioned that for the German National Library, the action days were their main focus. But for the Great War Archive in Britain in 2008, we were very pleased that over 60% of contributions in the 4 months of running the collection, over 60% were made online on our website. Because we did not have time to collect and catalogue material after our funding ran out in the UK, we set up a Flickr group. This has now got more than 3,500 photographs, and we haven't had to do any project work to collect these. One of the main developments for next year, for Europeana 1914 to 1918, will be to make it possible for a Flickr member or a YouTube member to elegantly export their photographs or their video and the metadata into our collection. I don't think I've got time, Johan, to show the film. It's 5 minutes long.
If people want to watch it during the lunch break.
That sounds good.
I think that's...
It's all ready to go, so...
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.